Hello, everybody. Hello, Choir of the Earth. Welcome to this session with Ben and Mark and Connor. Connor, you're very welcome. Lovely to see you.
Likewise, good to see you guys.
This gives us all an opportunity to have an in-depth, behind-the-scenes, deep dive chat with you, Connor, just to see how you're getting on, how you feel the choir is performing at the moment, and how your tools and techniques have improved over the last few months since we last had a chat, and how the choir has improved in its sound quality, and what maybe you have in store that you can tell us about for the future. So without further ado, Ben, you might like to lead this conversation.
Thank you, Mark. Morning, Connor.
Morning.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you on behalf of everyone in the choir for everything that you and Matt and Kai and your wider team do. No exaggeration, you create our sound by mixing together all of these strands, many of which are put together on phones. I mean, these were never meant to be used for recording vocals. They were meant to amplify spoken voice, and what you do is remarkable. So thank you for that, and congratulations. As you know, Choir of the Earth recently got second place in Britain's top choirs for the Seal Lullaby. And although it was a controversial decision, one of the judges didn't like it at all, gave us 4 out of 10 across the board. One of the other judges, a very prominent choral conductor, gave us 9 out of 10 across the board and said he absolutely loved the sound. And I want to just start with how does it feel? And I hope that Matt and Kai are aware of this accolade. And I hope you guys feel, your own share of the responsibility for it, because it is superb. How does it feel after the journey that we're on to get that accolade?
It's quite surreal, really. I didn't think back in, I want to say like 2020, when I had a phone call from a guy called Mark Strachan, that I would eventually win an award for this sort of thing. It was, well, not me personally, but yeah, literally. But yeah, it was when Mark texted me and said, like, look, we've won this. I was a bit speechless, to be honest. And it's just good to know that the wider world actually enjoys what we're doing. Yeah. And is sort of touched by it. I guess as well, it's the whole it's nice that it was one of Eric's pieces, because obviously he's the sort of grandfather of this whole thing that we're doing. So yeah, it was I think very special.
On a wider debate, which is kind of outside this discussion, Connor, it shows that our way of making music needs to be taken seriously by everybody, and that we are now very much part of the debate, and that's something that Ben and I will be concentrating on, for the next year or so, is bringing all of us into the wider debate of music making.
Exactly. I think, you can call this a virtual choir, but it's not an AI. It's real people really singing, really spending the time to learn these pieces, learn the notes, learn the words, talk to each other, help each other. It's real people doing real music. There's nothing really virtual about it at all.
Exactly. And we along with the stay-at-home choir and the sofa singers, I mean, we all refer to this art form. We say there is nothing virtual about it. It's a digital choir. And so a digital choir needs a different set of personnel than you would normally have for what we call a face-to-face choir. Other people call a real choir. Again, face-to-face. Real, exactly. So in the face-to-face choir, you've got obviously the conductor, you've got the accompanist, you've got the singers, but you've also got someone who books the hall, and you've got someone who makes the tea, and we've got someone who sorts out the music, and we have a different set of personnel, and you are a vital pillar. You are one of the essential components.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. So what I want to ask you is before we talk about the choir, do you mind telling us, I mean, I know, where you studied and so on, but a lot of people watching won't know your background. So how did you get into this whole sound engineering thing?
Yeah, so I I'm taking you way back.
Yeah.
So
5 whole years, is it?
yeah, way back to last Thursday. So I think I was around like age 10, let's say,
Last week.
last week. And I went to a studio with one of my mum's good friends. And she works in TV, so she was in a dubbing theatre. And we walk in and there's this humongous mixing desk with all these like lights and buttons and slidey things and all this amazing sort of technology. And me being this little nerdy 10-year-old was sort of running around being like, what is all this stuff? So pretty much from there, I was like, this is me. This is what I want to do. I want to be in the room with all the buttons and lights. Exactly, the room where it happens. So pretty much everything from there was sort of orchestrated to sort of end up where I am now. I started learning guitar and then did music at GCSE and A level. Then I went to uni and studied sound engineering. This was at UWE in Bristol, where I studied under the likes of Martin Harries, who's done a lot of work with David Attenborough and the sort of Planet Earth sort of things.
And he played trumpet on that wonderful Armed Man, didn't he?
And that, yes, I called in a favor. And actually, I should probably say thank you, Martin, because I think he put me and you guys in touch, actually. Initially, yeah.
I know Martin from way back, and
yeah.
Just to kind of give you to complete the circle, if you like, Mark and I had a conversation would have been August, September of 2020, and I said, you know, we are working with this wonderful engineer who mixed Messiah and so on, but he's very busy, and he's one man. And I said, what we need is a team. And so I got in touch with my friend Martin, who said, I've got a whole load of youngsters who really do need the work because we were still in the middle of the pandemic. There's one guy, you know, you should cover your ears for this, but he said he's exceptional. I mean, and I know that Martin would.
But he wasn't available, was he, Ben? He wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
Who makes the tea? No, but he put us in touch, and there's no denying Martin thinks of you as one of his all-time star pupils, and so you know you should feel very proud that you've impressed somebody of that quality, that caliber. And having worked with you now for 3 years, I can see he's absolutely right.
Thank you.
I can see your head expanding to fill.
Yeah, I was just like saying.
So look, let's talk about the first project that you did. And I know you said you've been listening back to them recently. Was it the Foray Requiem's the first thing you did?
Was the Foray Requiem. A foray into foray.
Oh, very nice.
So I've been saving that one for 3 years.
So just tell me what you did day one. You had this folder full of files and
yeah.
How did it go?
So I remember thinking that I just literally would just have to plop them in Pro Tools, slap a reverb on it and hit go. And it's just like done. I was very much mistaken, I realized, after I got the first bit of feedback. Because I remember I gave you the entire album in, I think, about like 4 hours or something. And I was sort of like rubbing my hands like, haha, this is going to be easy. This is great. And then you guys were like, this is really good. But no one's like, it's not stuck together enough. The people are singing the wrong words at the wrong time. So then when I started going back in, I realized there was a lot more that needed to be done. And I then found out I needed a team. But I soldiered on and did the whole project myself. And I remember at the end of that, I said, never again. I'm never doing that on my own ever again. And hired, I think it was 17 people after that to help me, because the next project sort of in the runnings, just jumping over Christmas, was Elijah. And I remember how Mark broke it to me. He was like, so you know how 4A was, I don't know, like 8 pieces?
Yeah.
How'd you feel about doing 45 of those? Yeah, I could do that. So I had to quickly sort of train 17 people. It's just like, this is what, you know, S's look like, this is what T's look like, this is how you got to cut it up and put it back together. And here's how you take all the files in. And people took to it and we got there. The rest is history. You've all heard it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Um,
And just to jump in, because we mentioned Eric Whittaker earlier on, and when Mark and I spoke to him, I still can't believe we got to speak to Eric Whittaker.
I know.
It was just mind blowing.
Yeah.
What he said is when he was putting these pieces together, the thing he hated and the thing that the engineers hated is S's. And when we told him that we'd done Messiah and Elijah, you know, his eyes went out on stalks. You did what? And you know, for those who don't completely get what it is that you do, you know, when someone records their audio, it is you know, it's a sound file, but there is a degree of control that you have using modern digital tools. So if someone, for example, finishes a word too early, puts the S in early, there are ways of just gently kind of just nudging that out so the S matches with everyone else. I'm right, aren't I?
Exactly, yeah. So we can either, there's 2 options. We can either stretch it so the word lasts longer, or we can cut it. We can cut the S syllable out, put it where it needs to go, and blend the 2 back together. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. It's you sort of pick and choose as and when.
Whichever sounds best, isn't it? Whichever has the best overall sound. And I think that's important to say, because some people I know out there have said in comments, both on the forum and in person, that, oh, does that mean our voices are being manipulated? And I think, well, one way to look at it is when you're singing it on your own at home, you're a soloist. When you combine soloists, then you have to have some way of blending that sound and uniting it. I know for a fact that when Josh at Fieri creates the guide tracks for our projects, he has to go through what Fieri send, and he has to do exactly what you do with the wider choir to make sure they start together, they finish together. And it's not a question of manipulation. It's taking the place of being in the same room as each other and having the body language, having the eye contact. So rather than think of it manipulation, think of it as you are creating the blend.
Exactly. It's I was talking to Mark a while ago, and I said it's more I'm like shepherding people to sort of herd together. You know, it's he who watches over Elijah slumbers not nor sleeps. I think you said, Ben, once. But exactly, I can see all the notes on the screen. I might even later pull up a project or something perhaps, but I've got sort of the different notes of what people sung in front of me, and I just sort of smushed them together. I'm not going, you have to sing a perfect G, you have to sing a perfect F or whatever. It's just sort of guiding people to sort of follow the same shape as each other. And that gives us that nice homogeneous sound.
If you tune everyone, it just sounds like Metal Mickey. It sounds robotic.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
What we want to do is, and having recently, as you know, conducted a huge performance of Zadok the Priest, big cathedral with over 1,000 voices. I was really blown away. It's the first time I'd actually conducted a performance of that size since working with you guys and you know, helping create this Choir of the Earth. And it really just hammered home to me how important it is to just let the choir be the choir. Obviously taking out coughs and splutters and dog barks and cars going past if you can. But the overall blend, we don't want everyone singing the exact same note. What you want actually is the same sort of thing you get with a big choir, which is a sort of more of a cloud, which will blend far better. You get all the right resonances, you get all the right harmonics. Mark,
sorry, Ben, to interrupt the maestro. Sorry, Ben. But Conor, as a layman, Ben mentioned the coughs and the ambulance sirens and the doorbells and everything. When you put those down on a piece of software, do they appear sort of miles higher than everything else so that you know it's a sound you can just remove? Does that make it easier to remove these sounds that we may have in the background whilst not affecting the notes that we're singing?
Sometimes. So things like rustles and clicks, things that are high frequency, for those who did the recording with Julie course, you'll know what I mean.
Yes.
But it's sort of like a kind of sound, that sort of high pitch, high frequencies sort of thing. I can just sort of scoop those just off without really affecting the voice. Similarly for thuds, that's really like low. So I can just scoop that in from the bottom, because most of your voice happens in the middle.
Yes.
So I can sort of take out the extremities and not really affect your performance. However, what happens when there's a car going past? Because that is in the middle. That's exactly where your voice is. So there's this really fancy piece of software called Isotope RX that sound guys up and down the country are going to be mad about me talking about right now, because it's a bit of a secret weapon, because it really can do pretty much anything. So it might be best if I show you this. Is that all right?
Of course.
Apologies, everyone, while you wait for this. Let me just whip it up.
No, this I think is fascinating, because we all experience as we do this, Ben and Conor, a car or a sound that, as you say, might fall. What about page turns? While are they in the zone?
Conor and I have spent many an hour listening to tracks and go, there's a page turn there, there's a page turn there, and Conor goes through and nerfs them all brilliantly.
Yeah. So if I just share my screen, Mark, you might need to give me permission. Can you guys see this okay?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can.
So this is an audio file that I just had on my computer. I'm not going to play it, so you're not going to hear it.
Right.
But this is Isotope. So what it allows me to do is I have all of these tools down the side. So if there's a crackle in your voice, if you're recording clips, if there's a click, if I can hear the backing track, if your breaths are too loud, if you have a plosive, which sounds like a sort of sound when you say, pickles or whatever. You click on this and it will go like, say, here's a plosive, render it, and it will remove it. That's not actually a plosive, so it doesn't get rid of it, but you know what I mean. But this tool, the gain tool, is what I use if there's like a car going past. So you see how there's this weird squiggle here. I don't know if you can just about see it.
Yes.
I can get this brush tool, draw on it like Photoshop, and say turn it down by 50 dB, and you see how it's gone.
Oh my goodness.
So there's a click. I can see there's a click here. I just draw it, render it, and it's gone.
Goodness me.
So actually, you're as much a visual editor, Conor, using this tool as an audio editor.
Yeah, I think one thing I've sort of helped the editors learn to do is edit with your eyes, which I know sounds really stupid.
It sounds amazing. But
exactly, your eyes can work so much faster than your ears, because if I have to listen to every word and it's like, oh, the T here is not quite together, go back in, listen to it. Oh, still not there, back again. Oh, still not there. I'll be there all year. Whereas if I can look and go, okay, all the T's line up, all the S's line up, then you could just listen to it once and it's perfect first time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like learning to sort of fuse the eyes and the ears, that they work together in a way in that regard.
So obviously that's absolutely fantastic what that software can do. But what we need to consider as the choir now is the fact that you've got, that's one track, one instrument. If you now multiply that by hundreds of voices across multiple movements, I can see why you said never again. I'm not doing that myself. So what's the process? So the choir records, they put it in the Dropbox, and how do we turn 500 times 20 tracks into one album?
Okay. So I get the files from Mark Cease. He sends me everyone's submissions. He sends me all the files used to make the guide track files as well. I then go, Kai and Matt, I've got a present for you. To which they, oh, Conor, not again. I'm joking. And then they take all the files. They have a listen through every single one just to make sure everyone's singing the right piece. Sometimes we find stuff in the Dropbox for a different course. Sometimes we find, you put your headshot in the wrong file by accident. Someone sent us a picture of their groceries once. What you had for dinner looks great, by the way. You know who you are. Some people send us like some random sort of dictaphone mumbling thing that they're doing. So we have to check that it's right, because otherwise in the middle of Elijah, you'll have like, I need to remember to phone my mum and pick up the shopping, and can you imagine? So yeah, we listen to everything. Then after that, the guys will align all the claps, so that we can sort of pick all the altos up as one block and sort of roughly drop them into place alongside the guide track that you've been singing along to. After that, we have a listen just to sort of see, are there any parts where there's a lot of mistakes? Like, I think the singers can attest to this. There's some parts of the pieces, for example, in A Massive Life, the la la la, that sort of the rhythms of that is really hard. So there might be a few more mistakes there than there are in, say, earlier sections that are much easier. So we sort of drop a marker, just been like, you're about to enter a world of pain there, sort of remember that. But then from here, we sort of go through each section of the choir and listen and sort of roughly align all the words. We do have a piece of software called Vocaline that helps us with this. So what that does is you put the guide track into Vocaline and say, this is what I want it to like be rhythmically. Everyone needs to sing this note at this time. It will then look at what you've submitted, and if you're just a fraction early somewhere, it will just nudge it. We can set a limit, and we have our limit set quite low, so it doesn't adjust it too much. It's just literally just guiding you towards the guide, so it sort of locks in a bit more. And then from there, we just go back through and just nitpick and take out any coughs, any big breaths, any slams, page turns, any weird noises, tighten up any bits that haven't quite worked. From here, that then gets sent to me. So I will then listen through the whole piece once, check that the edits are all right. Sometimes there's a certain phrase that they've missed or whatever.
What was that piece in Elijah? The fire descends from heaven.
The fire descends from heaven, yeah. So that normally the guys may like gloss over like a bar or something, like they've accidentally just jumped ahead.
This is proper behind the scenes stuff. I don't think we've shared this with the choir, but I think 2 years. I think we can share this.
I think it's time. So normally when we miss something, we've accidentally started the song from a couple of bars later, and the whole first bar is like completely unedited. So I have to say, can you just do the first bar, or I'll just run in myself and just do it quickly. But we had, in all our divine wisdom, completely forgotten to edit The Fire Descends from Heaven until the day before the concert. I remember Ben did his sort of preliminary final listen through a day or so before, and was just like, "Oh, Connor, there's no choir on The Fire Descends from Heaven." I was like, "What do you mean?"
You said it's a solo movement. I said it's not.
It's not.
But Ben, it's in my list as a solo movement. It's really not. So I phoned up Kai and I said, Kai, do you want the good news or the bad news? I said, good news. All right. The good news is Ben loves Elijah. The bad news is we've completely missed a movement and I need it in 8 hours. And this was at like, I think 10 p.m. or something. It was very late. So Kai, the absolute trooper, slammed a Red Bull, I think, channeled his inner student, pulled an all-nighter, and edited The Fire Descends from Heaven in full overnight for me to mix it in less than 3 hours. I think, Ben, we were on Zoom mixing it, and I sent you the file, and you said bye, slammed end, and immediately went live.
That was the day we did Elijah 3 times in one day.
Yeah. And
sometimes we are still just polishing up until a few hours before. Quite often, actually. You know, it's as with any broadcast, as long as it's ready 5 seconds before it goes live. It doesn't matter whether it was done a week ago or just then. But that is the squeakiest of deadlines.
Yeah. And I never knew that.
No. No, we didn't feel that was something the choir needed to know about that.
No.
But I have to remember, and when you folks were out there watching, if you watch the first of the 3 Elijahs we did on that day, when The Fire Descends from Heaven starts, you might just detect a little twitch of my eye just as I press the button and please work. Please work.
Yeah, because seriously, like sometimes I send you guys stuff and like the file's blank, there's nothing in it. Because it like I sent it to you before it finished bouncing or like anything could have happened in that bounce. I could have forgotten to have the orchestra on, like anything.
Connor, what does bounce mean, just for those who, like including myself, who may not know what bounce means?
Yeah, so bounce is a term from the old tape days, I believe, where you take a multitude of tracks and bounce it to another tape machine, putting it down to 2 tracks. So if you had a 4-track tape recorder, you bounce it to a 2-track tape recorder. So all 4 tracks would become 2. So if that's wrong, I'm sorry, Martin, I'll let you down. But yeah, it's basically just exporting the files.
Yeah.
So ingredients of the cake are eggs, milk, flour, sugar, and so on. They get mixed, and the bouncing is when you put it in there and you take it out, and you've got the file. And so kind of just to kind of quickly step back, because I jumped in with the file.
Right. No.
So you mix it, you put together a version, and then you send it to the musical director, and then
I get a good essay back about how great it is and how awful it is at the same time. So it definitely in the early days, Ben had a very huge hand, still does, but in sort of shaping the sound, and was sort of like, what about if we take this out here? You've got too much stop there. But he's trained up the old bat ears. So now I'm starting to sort of say to Ben, what about we put a crescendo here? Oh, yeah. Or what about we do this?
Not just been with me, is it? I mean, you work very closely. We've had Patrick Hawes, and we've mixed with John Rutter. We've mixed with Donald Palumbo.
That was amazing.
That was amazing. Which can you remember which track that was, Connor? Was that the Puccini humming chorus, or was it all of them?
I think it was the whole opera, right?
The whole lot.
It was all of it. But you tell us about working with Nigel. on SPEM? Because that was something.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. And it's like, it's amazing to work with someone of that sort of caliber. Like the guy's a genius. There's no two ways about it. And it still to this day blows my mind how he could sort of listen to a piece like SPEM where there's so many notes going on at the same time, and he'd still be able to go, there's someone in Soprano 3 Part A or whatever who's flat. Can we just go in? It's just the fact that he could hear that still to this day. I mean, it's blows my mind. But yeah, that was a very special piece, SPEM. That has been biggest piece I think I might have ever done, because it took 9 Pro Tools sessions just for it to work. So for those who don't know, a Pro Tools session is the software I use to mix your sound. It's just like Audacity or GarageBand. It's just a bigger version of it. But it only allows me to play, I think it's like 500 to 1,000 tracks of audio at once.
Merely.
A mere 500. So for SPEM, because we had so many people singing it, I had to have 9 of those projects just to like make the mix.
That's 4,500 tracks effectively.
And you can tell, Conor, you can tell that huge sound.
It is. It's a wall of sound. I think I'd like to go back and revisit that one day and mix it in the new sort of Dolby Atmos and 5.1 and all the rest of it.
What was amazing was we did this festival where we asked different conductors to conduct works that they hadn't done. And we had Harry conducting SPEM. And I don't know if you've seen the video of Harry Bradford as we get at the end. I mean, he is just listening to this noise, and he can't believe what he's hearing, and you can see it in his actions and in his conduct. And he, when it's over, he just goes, "Wow, did you hear that?" You created an amazing sound.
Really, a few weeks ago, Mark and I were lucky enough to have dinner with Patrick, and he hadn't heard SPEM.
That's correct.
We got out the laptop and we showed him the 40 Nigels video, which is quite something. And he thought the 40 Nigels thing was fascinating. Obviously, from a visual point of view, you could see the piece developing across the screen. The thing he kept going on about is how extraordinary it sounded, and that really is a testament to you, how hard you work, how incredibly musical you are. And it's all very well for you to say, well, in the beginning Ben had this hand in it, but as we've gone on, not everyone does that. Not everyone takes the time to want to improve what they do and to want to grow as a musician. But you have always been a real joy to work with, because I can say there's something wrong there, and rather than getting stressed about it, go right on it, let's fix it, and then next time that doesn't happen because you've already internalized the technique. And so it's getting to the point. I do remember with Elijah, I think I counted 12 full days of mixing, and these are full long days to get it mixed and to get the sound and throughout that year 2021, we were really working on polishing and developing the sound to the point we got to the creation, and Summer School 2021 is really sounding great. 2022 obviously it's a whole other level. The Armed Man, the Slava course with those Ukrainian pieces.
Yeah, they were lovely.
Some are absolutely brilliant. I want to ask you just of the courses, if we take SPEM as the biggest, what has been your favourite course to work on?
Good question.
That is a good question.
Choosing between your children, I appreciate.
Yeah, literally. They're my babies, my mixers. That I think Sorry, this is just a very big
Did I
question.
hear the word Slava about to come out, or did I not
It
hear?
was no, you were, but I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right. I think actually the American Greats course, so summer school, the first summer school I did,
Mm.
that the Jake Runestad
With
piece.
mine eyes.
I remember the first time I listened to that after Kai sent me the edit, I took my headphones off and just sat there for a minute and thought, we're onto a winner here, guys. Like this is insane. Like because part of the reason why I took this job is I'm a massive vocal harmony nerd. Like I love it. I absolutely love vocal harmony. And I'm really inspired by the Eric Whittaker, obviously. Very like crunchy, close harmony, and then that resolves into something gorgeous. Even talking about it, I'm starting to get goosebumps. And that Renestad piece, especially out of the others, had that sort of quality to it. And I remember you were like, "Bet, Connor, just give me the file." And I said, "No, I'm not done yet. I'm gonna." I went through every single voice and polished it to an nth degree because that piece meant so much to me. So I guess I'd probably have to say that.
Wonderful.
Well,
Wonderful.
it's one of the truly, genuinely joyous, radiant pieces in our repertoire, and we've done. At this point, we've recorded hundreds of hours of really good.
Yeah.
But that's one of my absolute favourites. Partly because it sounds so good, but partly because of just the unbridled joy that I got from you, Connor. Because it was a big
Yeah.
moment. I think it's when it went from, if you don't mind me saying, it felt like it's when you went from this is hard work and enjoyable to I love this.
Yeah.
This is something that I'm enjoying,
Mm.
and it's also work.
Yeah.
And of course, we then got to go to Bergen last year,
That was really something.
and you know, the massive life is coming along brilliantly.
Mm.
Just to kind of because we've kept you long enough today, just to wrap
No,
things
it's fine.
up because obviously we've got some brilliant projects around the corner. Monteverdi Vespers, which you'll adore
Mm.
from a clashing, beautiful choral sound point of view. But tell us a little bit about the Mass of Life
Yeah.
and how's it doing?
How's it coming?
Yeah.
So the Massive Life is coming. It's I think for us, I don't know what it is. German and our editing techniques don't seem to get on very well. So it's a bit tricky on an edit. But we are getting there. I've got all the edits back now. So I'm going through and just making sure that everything's good, basically. We should have something soon. But it's absolutely glorious. That first movement, I think
Yeah.
you guys can remember being in the room
Oh my God.
when their choir like rock in, it's like, wow.
And I am so pleased, Connor, that you were there with us
Yeah.
and that Mark was there with us, because it's all right for Ben and I to get nerdy about these things, but you know, it's a difficult piece. It's not
really
often
is.
performed. You know, this is the first time any digital choir has ever done this, and
Mm.
it's so good that you were there with us to experience it, so that that personal involvement with Roddy and with Sir Mark Elder and with
Mm.
Hawken will really come through, I think, in when we reveal it to the world in not too long now.
Not too long at all. Not too long at all. And it is one of those things. It does take time. And I think it's different to anything we've ever done because we are fused. This is the first time I think we've fused a face-to-face performance with the virtual choir thing, you know. Digital
And
choir,
if it
sorry.
works well, it won't be the last time either.
Oh no. Oh no.
I'm hoping we'll be able to do, and you folks have seen some of my experiments where I've had AI build me a rather nice web interface. I love the idea, perhaps, of producing. Obviously, we'll have the Connor mix, which will be kind of the one that goes out to the world in a performance. But I love the idea of giving the world sliders. So you've got Bergen Orchestra, you've got the Bergen Choir, and then you've got soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and you can create your own mix, which has never been done before. Truly groundbreaking, truly world changing, and I think the future of our art form, gentlemen, is bright indeed.
I agree, Ben, completely.
And
I think, just AI, rather than being frightened of it, I think it's something to welcome.
It's the future. And the same with the internet. In the 90s, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm never getting on the internet," and of course, if you're not on the internet, you are missing out on a huge amount, including this wonderful choir. And really, just to kind of bring things full circle, I think, you know, we started out in lockdown as a way of keeping everyone from going mad, I think, producing Messiah, but we've now got to the point where, as you said at the beginning, Mark, that this art form needs to be taken seriously, and there will be books written about this. And on page 1, it'll be Choir of the Earth, started by Mark Strachan, conducted by Ben England, and there'll be chapters about what you and your team do, Conor. You know, this is properly. No one in the world makes music like this. Some say that's because it's mad, but you know, it works.
It does.
And we are now custodians of an art form that people will be using, will be adding to for centuries. So we're pioneers.
Yeah. All of that is true. Well, on that note, Conor, and thank you so much for your time for chatting with Ben and I today. It's been absolutely fascinating. And now we get back to Massive Life.
Back to Massive Life. I think I'm mixing movement 3 today. I think I can't remember.
Good.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Oh no, das ist ein Tanz. It's the third move. Das ist ein Tanz.
That's it.
One shot. 8-part.
Hear it in my head right now. Okay, gentlemen, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for this wonderful chat, and see you very soon.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.